Hey, welcome back to the secret underground lair. Taking care of a whole bunch of little odds and ends on our sideboard today, starting with drilling holes for the handles. So I have marked and center punched the location of the handles in each of the doors and drawers. So I'm going to drill them out with a pilot hole, then a follow-up bit with the right size at 3/32. And just all kinds of little odds and ends to finish up this cabinet today. That's today's adventure. So as I mentioned, I have marked the location of the holes where I want the handle holes to be. And I'm drilling them out with a small bit first and then following up with a 3/32 bit. So first we'll drill that pilot hole, then follow up with this. The 3/32 bit is a little bit larger than the machine screw that's used to hold the handles. That's deliberate because I want to have just a little bit of wiggle room to accommodate that handle. But it won't show up as being offset or anything when the doors are finally put in place. Now, location of handles is a little bit of a controversial thing. And the location of the handles depends, is something that depends on taste. I could put them up here, I could put them here, but consulting with my interior designer, for this particular cabinet, we're going to put them there. Now, for the door style, it might actually look better to have them in the middle of the door, but this being a relatively low door, it is just some 20 some odd inches off the floor. That would be too far to reach to get the handle. So we're going to move it up to here. And that kind of gives us some geometry of an equidistance from here to the top of the handle. So your eye doesn't see anything as being out of line. Things will... just kind of the way the mind's eye works, that'll turn up the way it should. So that's the location of the handles here. Handles on the drawers are going to, of course, just be centered in the middle of the drawer. So I'll set the camera up and I'll drill out a few of these holes for you. I've already drilled out pilot holes on the drawers, so we'll just go through now on our 3/32 bit. So just a note about our drawers, because this is a false front on the drawer is actually a full inch thick compared to normally a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch drawer. Now that comes into play when you're dealing with the screw that comes with the handle. This is a 1-inch screw. I've got 1 inch of material. That's not going to bite the handle. So what I do have is a number of these screws, and these are available from your hardware store, and sometimes they come with handle sets. So it's a screw that has predetermined places where you can cut the screw and you won't mar up the threads of the screw, of the machine screw. So in this case, I took a bunch of these guys and cut them off at this mark, got rid of that 1/2 inch, and that leaves me a 1 1/4 inch screw that I can then bite the handle. So the drawers require these modified screws. cupboard doors, I can use the standard screw. So as that screw comes through, you can see a little bit of wiggle room. Not a lot, just enough that it lets me adjust the handle a little wee bit. And you may be wondering why you're putting the handles on now. Well, it's all just for test fit and alignment. Just make sure everything is okay. These are going to come off almost immediately. But we'll put everything on and you can have a look at it when it's all installed. So there's the one of the drawers done. We'll get the other drawers and the doors done, come back when we have them back on the cabinet. Here we are with some handles installed. Now I need to work on the door stops and finishing up our little facing veneer on the front of this cabinet. So I'll do the veneer part first and then do the door stops while that's drying. So I just put all the veneer strips on the face of the cabinet here. I didn't film any of that, but fundamentally it's just taking little very, very thin pieces of material here and just gluing it onto the edge. There'll be some sanding, of course. I tacked it in many places with my nail gun, so a little bit of filler and patching on that. We'll do that, let the glue set up over lunch. Time for a bite of lunch. And then we'll finish up this veneer after lunch. I need to put a little bit more on the drawers. We're going to run veneer around the top edge of the drawers as well. Probably use something a little bit thicker than the very thin stuff I put on the face of the cabinet. So maybe 1/4 of an inch high on this stuff. Ish, maybe an eighth. Anyway, we'll do that after lunch. So I'm back from lunch. I just used the flush trims and just cut off the ends of these little veneer pieces. And I'm just using some sandpaper to kind of clean up the edge and get rid of the glue. So just a little bit of sanding like this, go over the whole piece. All right, I flipped the piece around, as you can see, finished sanding off all of that veneer. I'm just going to blow it off now and then put a little bit of filler in some of those nail holes that we had. I may need to put a little extra glue under a couple of places where I see it lifting a bit. And then I'm going to start working on the skirt, and I'm going to work on that from this side. Just need to do a little sanding on these corners. And a little glue there and a little glue there. Okay, break out the filler and we'll just do a couple nail holes. All right, I'm going to start working on the skirt. Now, before I went for lunch, I said I was going to do the veneer on the top of the drawers, but I'm going to do that off camera I would like to get onto the skirt here, front, back, and side. So that's our next bit. So one little extra detail I wanted to point out. This bar that we have here is the divider between the two doors in the center section. It's held in place by a screw here and a screw here. I've also put glue in the joint, but because it's a single screw on either end, there is the potential for it to twist. I mean, if the glue joint breaks, it'll twist. So what I've done is I've drilled a pilot hole through the floor and into this post, and I'm going to insert this finishing nail. I'll countersink that just to keep this from any hope of spinning. Not countersink, I'm using a nail set. There we are. So now there are two things going into this post that'll keep it from spinning. Or the second thing will keep it from spinning around. Onto the skirt. So the skirt that's going into our cabinet here is going to be a 1.5 inch strip that comes up here, 1.5 inch strip across here, and 1.5 inch strip down here. So I'm just going to cut out what I'll refer to as the leg portion of the skirt, and then we'll cut this long section. But I'm going to do that 2 legs here and 2 legs for the back as well. So we'll have skirts on front and back. All right, just going to cut a 4-inch strip off of this 3/4 inch piece of stock, and I'm going to that 4-inch strip then is a rough cut that I can put through the table saw to get the 1.5 inch piece I want for the skirt. Again, using the bed rail. Okay, we'll take this off the table saw and we'll run this through to get us 1.5 inch strips. Now I need to cut these pieces down to 34 inches, representing the length of these. And I'm questioning at the moment whether I want to do a little bit of joinery in here. And I'm thinking that perhaps a dowel might be a good idea, just to kind of keep these pieces flush. So if somebody kicks a leg here, for example, it's not going to spin around. It's going to be mounted into the other leg. And I'm wondering if I might want a dowel in there too, or maybe a couple dowels here and a dowel here. We'll think about that, I'll be right back. So here's how the skirt is going to fit. It's just going to be set back in just a little wee bit there. Not a lot, just a little bit. But I am thinking it will be glued onto the floor. So a glue joint along here. There'll be a glue joint along here, but that's an edge to surface joint. So I'm not really expecting, well, I can't really hope for a lot of strength out of that joint. So I am going to put 2 dowels from here and here. Sorry, a dowel here and a dowel here. And then I'm going to run into, actually I just realized that's going to be impossible. Yeah, that's impossible. Because I can't put, slip that into a dowel and slip that into a dowel. So, all right, what I'm going to have to do then is I'm going to put a screw from this side into here, and I will fill that screw in. You won't see it. It'll be countersunk and filled in. But I will put a dowel in this joint here. And that's a screw I didn't want to use, but I think I'm going to have to do that. All right, let me get the dowel, this piece assembled with dowels, and I'll come back when I'm ready to put that screw in. All right, I got our skirt piece roughly laid in, so I've got the dowel joint running through here. I've got a dowel joint running through here. Piece is going to fit the way I want it to fit. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of sanding to do once it's in place. But I'm going to glue that up and clamp it in place for now. We'll rely on the glue joint on the top here, but I will, after it's been glued and clamped and set, I'll put a screw in this side and a screw in the other side. So just clamping this into place now. It's a glue joint at the moment. And there'll be a little bit of sanding off that excess glue and trimming. But by and large, that's skirt on one side. I'm going to make the skirt now for the bottom side. Don't know that I can assemble it or put it in place while it's upside down. I prefer to see the other side when it's happening. But I'm going to get the pieces cut exactly the length, the dowels drilled, and ready to put in. So I'll do that off camera. I'll come back when that's ready. So while I'm waiting for the front skirt to dry, and before I put on the back skirt, I thought I'd work on the surface of these, or the top edge of these drawers. As I mentioned, the drawers are MDF, and drawers in particular are kind of vulnerable to, you drop something on the edge and it can get damaged. So I'm putting I've cut some pine strips here. They're about 1/8 of an inch thick. And I'm just going to be kind of setting them in place roughly, cutting them roughly to length. They may overlap a little bit, that's okay. These ones are fine. They're going to need some sanding to get them parallel with the edge, but I just want to get them on right now. So I'll be using, just kind of marking them with my pencil, using the oscillating saw to cut them off, and gluing them in place, and tacking them down with my nail gun. All right, we're ready to go. I've marked the first one where I'm going to make a cut. Again, all these cuts are kind of ish, right? I don't need to make an exact cut because we're going to be flush trimming them and sanding them down. Of course, we'll put a little bit of filler in those nail holes. Those are just really to hold it in place while the glue sets. So now we're going to do another back edge, and then we're going to do these strips cut to length. One thing I am looking for as I put these on is a little bit of overlap on the little strip on either side of the drawer, so I can be sure that when I sand it I get a nice flush edge on both sides. Okay, now for this one I do need to make a more precise cut. Okay, I'm going to set you up on a little montage or a little fast forward so you can kind of see, we'll just work through all of these drawers. So enjoy the music. Alrighty, we got the tops on all these drawers here. Now I'm just going to let the glue set up on this, and then I can sand them down. So now I'm going to go back to the skirt. We'll do the back side of the skirt now. Get that glued in place. Alright, just going to set the back skirt in place. There is a little bit of filler that needs to happen. Of course, where this dado was cut out, or this rabbit was cut out for the back, we're going to fill that in and just take care of a couple little cracks that are here, little exposures that I want to seal up. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, let's get this piece in. So there's a little bit of work to do. You can see a little where the dado was, we need to fill that in. Another dado down at this end we'll fill in, and a couple little cracks. But generally we're pretty good. I didn't get to cutting out the skirts, or the side skirt. So I'll have to do that tomorrow. But once that's done, we're just into fine sanding and prepping for paint. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.